Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. Boy, is it an interesting time to be together. Glad we could be together virtually. As for anybody who's on the East Coast, or at least in New York, where I am, it really is a blizzard. There actually is a blizzard again. I was trying to remember when, prior to the one that was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, had we had a storm like this? And I think it was about 10 years ago. Like, for the past few years, here in New York anyhow, we hardly needed to wear a coat. It was warm cold during the winter. That has changed. At least today it's not well, I haven't gone outside yet, but yesterday and what it looks like today, uh, it's not as cold as it was when it was in the negatives, but it is snowing, and it has been snowing since about 9 o'clock yesterday morning. There were some pauses and other things, I think around 1 o'clock in the morning. The wind was so intense, I thought it was gonna blow the windows out. It was really intense. Then when I woke up this morning, there was no more snow, and I looked outside, all the cars are covered, but the city services have come and moved the snow. They've been working at it, the snow continues, but there's not thick snow on the ground. I have no idea how much has fallen, but maybe a foot, at least where I am. I don't know. It's a lot. As I was thinking about the snow and when it's first here, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to walk in it. It's beautiful to, there's just something really special about it. And yes, Sekou writes, "A blizzard." Yes, yeah, it's a blizzard. That's what they've been calling it. I think it is that. But I remember yesterday walking outside in the snow, and it wasn't hard. It was a soft snow. So when it touched your face, it was okay. It was really beautiful, and it was interestingly peaceful. I bet it is still snowing. I bet it's beautiful in Times Square. Snow when it is falling is beautiful. Snow when it sort of it it cleanses the space, or so it seems. I don't really know. I'm not a scientist, but I think that it makes us feel uh, peaceful, which is why I chose for us to take a look at what it means to choose peace in our lives. It really came as a result of being outside in the snow and just walking. I was walking to go to the grocery store to pick up a few things, and I walked with intention, not quickly. I didn't feel like it wasn't like the last time when the iciness of the air was so cold, it felt like it was burning my skin off. It wasn't like that. It was gentle. And the people who were also outside had a kind of gentle nature to them. There's a bit of softness to the whole experience. And I thought, okay, let me enjoy this. Let me be in the moment and enjoy what's happening. Nature is happening. It feels cleansing. And to just be in the present moment and enjoy that was great. Now, because we had just come off of the heels of the aftermath of the snow, and it was so cold that these mounds of snow, like feet of snow that had been piled up, wouldn't melt, wouldn't go away. So anybody who was here, it got to be dirty, nasty, black. Like the soot of the city was on the snow that used to be white and pristine and clean, became so dirty, and then people threw debris on top of it. I mean, it was disgusting. And a couple times I was gonna take pictures just to remind myself of what was happening, and then I said, I don't need that as a visual reminder. I remember. And yet I'm bringing it up now because there's something about being in the moment and claiming peace, and then also what happens after, and how do we nurture what can happen after. So if we think about the snow kind of as a metaphor for this engagement of peace, what can we do to keep it? What can we do to keep the purity of it and not allow the dirt and debris and stuff to clutter our minds and our hearts? This contemplation led me to one that I had when I was working on my book, How to Be, which is an Etiquette Plus. And I say that because how I used to describe it was a book about how to understand from where you come, what's expected from you, from your heritage, what's expected where you're headed, and for you to understand, you know, how are you supposed to show up? How are you supposed to be in those moments, bringing all of who you are to all of what that moment is? And I wrote that book 25 years ago, maybe I guess it's 26 now. It was at a time which is not different from now. Honestly, I think it was a desert storm, that war. Uh, it was at a time when there was a lot of intense strife around the world and a tremendous amount of friction. And for regular citizens who are just watching the news, we are seeing stories of other countries being bombed and our country going and having a huge military presence in other countries, and it was very intense. And I remember when I was on tour with this book, someone asked me, "Well, what can we do about what's going on in the rest of the world?" Now, I'm not a world leader, I'm not a soothsayer, but in my heart, as I was contemplating this, the thing that came up for me more than anything is that we need to handle what's going on in our lives. Like, ask yourself, what is going on in your life right now? We create little wars in our lives all the time. And as I thought about it then, and I will share with you now, I really do believe that if we create peace within our world, our inner world, our immediate world of family, coworkers, neighbors, citizens, from our just the tiniest, from our intimate world, if we find ways to create peace in our world, then what happens? I think that's how peace can expand into other arenas in the world rather than worrying about not that you shouldn't care about what's going on in the world, but what do you have control over? What can you do to make the world a better place, a more peaceful place, a place where it's rooted in goodness and stillness and the capacity to love? And so one of the things that I began to contemplate at that time and over time since then is what do we do in our own lives that either creates peace or doesn't? The most common thing to think about is in a relationship. Romantic relationship is very easy to look at, but it could be a friendship as well. If your friend, your partner does something to irritate you, to upset you, just gets under your skin, makes you mad, hurts your feelings, could be a betrayal, whatever it might be, and you are angry and you tell other people, I can't believe what he did. I can't believe what she did. Let me just tell you, blah, 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 blah. And then you go on and explain all of the things that this person has done to you or that have negatively impacted you. And you say, well, please don't tell anybody. Well, first, what you have done is you have put into someone else's head negative thoughts that you have about that person, true or false. You have shared this with that somebody else. Let's say you shared it with a group of your girlfriends or your guy friends. Then you're out with your friend, your partner, whoever it might be. You all are good, but your friend or friends remember what you had to say about that person and what they did. So you roll up with your friend and they are giving them the side eye. They are not they're not giving that warm hug. They remember what you said and they have their backup. They're not happy. They're not, and they could be mad at you for still being with that person when you just finished sharing all these bad things about them. You created a fire, and it's hard to put a fire out. Now, this is the kind of thing that we used to do. We can all remember when we were kids. If you got mad at a friend at school, you told your mama, "I can't believe da 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 happened." And then you make up the next day, but you didn't tell mama you made up the next day. You didn't close the loop. So your mother is fire breathing mad at whoever that is. When you're not mad anymore, why are you acting like that, mom? Well, you told me, but that had resolved itself. And not that you shouldn't tell your mother stuff. That's not the point. When you start a fire in your life by sharing the strong emotions that you may have about a person, a situation, and you don't go back and put the fire out, or sometimes you can't because it grew too fast, then what happens? That creates an inner war, maybe inside of you, inside your friendship, inside the friendship circle. And sometimes it grows and grows and grows and grows, and it cannot be dissipated. Well, isn't that how wars start? So, my suggestion to all of us is to make peace in our own lives. How can we do that? It's so hard when you're upset. It's so hard when you are in the swirl of emotion to be able to step back and say, okay, what's the best way to handle this situation? I'm hurting, I'm upset, I'm off kilter. But rather than lambast that person, rather than annihilate them through words and stories and telling other people exactly how you feel about so and so, how can you choose peace in the moments when you don't feel peace? My posture on this is to do everything you can to find it. Keep your mouth shut if you can. Breathe, meditate, take a walk, listen to music, exercise, do something other than spouting off and possibly creating a fire, creating war when what you want is peace. It's hard to do, but I'm telling you, it is worth it. And if you think about those scenarios, if you've ever been in a situation, either the one who caused the war or the one who got caught up in it, you don't want to be in that situation where, wow, I thought she didn't like him anymore. Now she's all hugged up with him. What? Then you don't know who to be mad at. Or I thought, didn't that person do that person wrong? What's going on? I don't like this is why I hate gossip. I absolutely hate gossip. I don't like talking about people. I don't like being in other people's business. I don't wanna know. I really don't. I don't find it fun to talk about people and their business. I don't wanna fill up my brain with other people's stuff. Good morning, Peggy. I don't wanna do that. I would rather think about ideas, um, about how to manifest greatness, really. It's interesting. I was talking to my neighbor and friend Yvonne last night, and I talked to my students about this a lot. You know, we now call it your brand, but really, like, what do you represent? What do you represent? If people were to describe you, what would they say about you? How would they define you if they had to say it to somebody else? And my friend Yvonne said to me that I think maybe she was at church. Um, she ran into either church or the gym, one of those. That's where she often is. She ran into a woman who we both know. Her Marion is her name. We know her from Jack and Jill, and I haven't seen her in a long time because we've graduated out now 4 years, and so I haven't seen her in a long time, and Yvonne hadn't seen her either, so when they met and they're reconnecting, she asked about me, and this was the highest compliment that I could ask for. She said, I really like Harriet, and whenever I think about her, I think that she's the one who brings peace. Can't pay for that. That's my parents, that's their lessons living through me, but it was a beautiful thing for someone I haven't seen in several years, haven't talked to at all, but that's what she remembers. Now, also, when I was in that Jack and Jill chapter for many years, I was the chaplain. I was the one who offered prayers and meditations in the meetings, and sometimes we had some hot topics and issues that we went through, and as I do here, I made it my business to look for the highest. But what does your brand stand for? And if it doesn't stand for what you want it to, realign. For me, finding a way to choose peace in the midst of whatever is going on is so incredibly important because otherwise we can get caught up in the whirlwind. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Mr. Darrow. Otherwise, we can get caught up in the moment and it's not good. Getting caught up isn't good. So I follow a little bit about zodiac signs. My sign is Pisces, and one of the things. So the image of Piscean is there are two fish swimming in opposite directions, and one of the things that I learned as a child was probably middle school, what we call junior high school, that their Pisceans are very emotional, creative and emotional, and often their mood swings go up and down and up and down. And that certainly was true about me. Uh, I would have euphoric highs and crashing lows, and that was not fun. As exuberant as I would be as deflated as I would be. And as many of you know, I've been practicing meditation for more than 30 years, 35 years. That did everything for me to help ground myself so that I did not allow myself to go to the highest of highs. And therefore, I did not have to allow myself to go to the lowest of lows, but more evenness, still exuberant, still, whatever the emotions are, but it didn't have to be as extreme. You can control yourself. That's what I learned. It is possible to control yourself. Yes, it is true that people born around the time that I am have a lot of emotion, maybe more than other people who have other things. But you don't just have to succumb to that and go, okay, this is going to be one of those moments that I don't control. Choose peace. Find a way to anchor yourself so that whatever's going on, you do not have to be caught up in the swirl of it. When you find yourself in the swirl of it, step off. And I will say for myself, I still find that, I still have those moments when it's like, shh. But when in the moment of awareness, when you recognize I'm in the swirl, I'm caught up, I'm allowing my emotions to take over. That's when you can go, no, I don't have to do that. I do not have to allow that. I have more power over myself than that. I do not have to allow myself to succumb to whatever emotion or experience is overtaking me at this moment. I hope that this is resonating for some of you because in the moment when it's happening, when the blizzard is happening, when so much is happening, and you could feel overwhelmed by whatever it is. If you have the awareness that you can step back, you can ground yourself all over again. You can choose peace in this moment. You can choose not to get caught up. You can choose to breathe and go, okay, I can be in control of me. I do not have to allow this flurry of emotion to be in control of me. I'm going to tell you it's one of the hardest things that I've ever done, and I have to do it plenty of times. It's not like you, if you're a spiritual person, you took the spirituality pill and you don't have any problems. Nope, it's not like that. It's practice, it's dedication, it's discipline. So let's look at the quote that I found. There were some really good ones about peace, but I found one that I thought might be applicable to us today. It says, without inner peace, outer peace is impossible. We all wish for world peace, but world peace will never be achieved unless we first establish peace within our own minds. We can send so-called peacekeeping forces into areas of conflict, but peace cannot be opposed from the outside with guns. Only by creating peace within our own mind and helping others to do the same can we hope to achieve peace in this world. That's from Geshe Kelsang Gyatso. I hope I said the name right. I'm going to read it again. This is the long one. I don't usually have long ones, but just thinking about what's going on in our world on the outside, all of the matches that are being lit and the fires that are going around everywhere around the world, and people feeling unsure of their safety, physical and emotional. This stood out for me. So listen again. Without inner peace, which is what we've been talking about, finding the inner peace, without that, outer peace is impossible. Just that alone. Without inner peace, outer peace is impossible. We can start in there and spend hours and weeks and months contemplating that. Without inner peace, outer peace is impossible. If your stuff isn't together, you can pretend, but it doesn't make for true peace. We all wish for world peace. Think about the Miss America contest. What do you want? World peace. We all wish for world peace, but world peace will never be achieved unless we first establish peace within our own minds. We can send so-called peacekeeping forces into areas of conflict, but peace cannot be opposed from the outside with guns. Only by creating peace within our own mind and helping others to do the same can we hope to achieve peace in this world. Isn't that powerful? Especially now. I teach a class at FIT, and the assignment this week was, well, last week, so they'll turn it in this week, was to interview a fellow student about a traumatic event that happened in their lives, whenever, something where they experienced trauma, which is a tough assignment, but it's a way to get to the truth and for the person being interviewed to get to their truth, and for the journalist, the interviewer, to capture the truth and write a compelling story. And I've given that assignment a few times now, and it's always interesting what the harvest of information may be. But one student, a really smart young man, came up to me at the end of class in tears, literally tears streaming down his face. And he said, "Professor Cole, I don't think that I can do this assignment." And I said, "Why not?" He says, "Well, there's only one thing that comes up for me, and it's too traumatic. I have never talked about it. I can't talk about it." And so he needed to tell me a little bit so I would know what he was talking about. And he had been, sadly, in one of the too many school shootings when he was in high school. As we know, there have been mass shootings at schools across the United States for a number of years now, and he was in one of those that occurred not that long ago, a few years ago. And I could see in his countenance it was raw and real and not fully processed, which it's only a few years ago. He's still a young person. And it was it was a powerful experience to be with him as he was recounting how he wasn't ready to talk about it, but he could not even think of anything else. The only thing that came to his mind was this traumatic moment. We need to do our best to stop these traumatic moments. This young man has certain scars that who knows? Who knows what will happen over his life? How do you heal from something where a bunch of people were hurt and killed? How do you fully heal from an experience like that? As a survivor, there are all kinds of feelings you have. There's something called survivor guilt. He was suffering from just remembering it and being overcome by grief. As that quote says, we need to find a way to choose inner peace and to the best of our ability, inspire others to choose inner peace so that we don't create situations like that. So we treat people better so they don't feel so wound up and whatever it is that happens inside of their brains and their beings to make them even consider such a heinous act. What can we do? Take care of ourselves. Work toward accessing peace and instilling it in our soul every day. Pause when we feel ready to lash out. Surround ourselves with people who love us and support us and give us whatever tenderness we need so that we feel that love that we need in order to live. For human beings, we talk about needing water in order to live, which is true. But honestly, I feel like what we need even more than water is love. When you feel loved for real, when you feel that people love you for who you are, that they see you, that they support you, that they're not judging you, but that they just love you, life is so much sweeter. There have been all kinds of studies. There's a study my husband likes to talk about. There was a Japanese doctor, a scientist who studied water, and there were several cups of water, and the experiment was speak to the water, say loving words to this glass of water, say negative, mean words to this one, ignore this one entirely, and then see what happens. The water that was loved was clear over a period of time. The water that was despised darkened, like got murky. The water that was ignored got the most murky. This is a true story. I'm not making it up. Can't remember the doctor's name, but it's a Chinese doctor who studied water. You can look it up. The power of intention is profound. And I think if we create the intention to install peace in our being, to choose peace as we look through our eyes at others, to see the goodness in people and to offer love to them, love to ourselves first and love to others, to be kind, to forgive people for not being perfect, to choose to see the goodness in them, to choose to see the goodness in ourselves. Then what happens? When you look through that lens, then even, like, looking at this blizzard that I'm looking at right outside of my window, the beauty of it now, it's pristine. How can we keep pristine hearts? How can we keep that even when the snow gets dirty and nasty, even when things in our lives get tough and ugly and people are mean and things are hard? Even when it's not pristine like right now, how can we keep that pristineness within? When we are able to do that, even when bad things happen, it makes life better. I'll close with this thought. I was talking to my friend Eric Easter, who you could check out my broadcast with him on my website, the Dreamleapers interview with Eric Easter from this past Saturday. But he was with Reverend Jesse Jackson at, when Nelson Mandela was freed after 27 years of imprisonment in South Africa. And 27 years of imprisonment. Think about that. As a freedom fighter, he was not treated well for all of those years when he was in prison. What Eric described when Nelson Mandela walked into this private room, there were about 50 people in the room. When he walked into the room, he said it felt like he was in the presence of an angel. That he felt like there was literally that there was a halo around Nelson Mandela's head. There was his energy was like God was pulsing through him. And Eric described it of being in the company of an angel. He was embodying peace. If he could do it, 27 years in prison. Think of it. Whatever the prison is in your life, whatever makes you sad, angry, hurt, crippled, it doesn't have to define you. You can choose peace. You can choose healing. You can choose love. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it is possible. I hope that as you travel through your heart and through your actions this week, that you could hold on to this. And I thank all of you who joined. I see Nikki and Tamara from Atlanta, and thank you for all of you who've written in, those of you who will look at this on demand. Thank you for joining me. Do your best to choose peace today, this week, and see what happens. Bethune, do your best. It is not easy, especially if you're going through stuff, but you can do it. You are worth it, and the people surrounding you will be so grateful if you show up with peaceful energy, peaceful, loving, open hearts. So, thank you for joining. Until next time, namaste.